Controversy in Oklahoma's win against Auburn. The SEC apologizes, but should they do more? And our winners and losers of the weekend. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We'll get you our winners and losers from week 4 in the SEC. We'll also run through the latest polls, AP poll, and coaches poll, tell you where all the SEC teams rank. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, we normally start with our winners of the weekend. But first, we've got to start with the losers of the weekend. And we have to start with this Auburn-Oklahoma game, as Oklahoma got a big 24-17 home win over Auburn on Saturday evening. But the story of the day was the Oklahoma touchdown early in the second quarter, where Isaiah Satania was appearing to walk off the field. He wasn't. He was just going to line up over at the hash mark, but Auburn didn't account for him, didn't see him. Like we said, appeared to be running off the field, but instead ended up wide open for a touchdown. Score was 3-3 at the time. Hugh Freeze said after the game he tried to call a timeout, but it wasn't granted. He said, and this was his quote, "I guarantee you, well, I better be quiet." Said they didn't hear us trying to call a timeout. Yeah, we'll see. We were instructed all offseason about deception plays and things, so we'll see what's said. Auburn coaches claim Satania was open because he deliberately tried to confuse Auburn by making it seem as though he was subbing out of the game after the previous play. Well, after the game, the SEC office released a statement. Here's what they said. In Saturday's game at Auburn at Oklahoma football game with 10:50 remaining in the second quarter, a pass was thrown to Oklahoma number 5, resulting in a touchdown. Oklahoma number 5 participated in the previous play, which was a first down. After the first down play was completed, he continued towards his team's sideline, but stopped just before reaching the Oklahoma sideline. NCAA Football Rule 9.2, Article 2 is labeled unfair tactics, stating, quote, "No simulated replacements or substitutions may be used to confuse opponents. No tactic associated with substitutes or the substitution process may be used to confuse opponents. This includes any hideout tactic with or without a substitution. The officiating crew did not properly interpret the action as a hideout tactic. If properly officiated, the second down play should have resulted in an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty of 15 yards assessed from the previous spot. Appropriate accountability will be applied without additional comment." Now, that's the interesting part. The statement says officials will receive appropriate accountability. Again, does that mean like, yeah, you're not going to work a game next week, Roger? Like, okay, still doesn't help but put points on the board for Oklahoma. Like I said, SEC says it will not provide any further comment on the matter. It stings if you're an Auburn fan because, let's face it, you're going to lose the game by 7. Had that play been called back, like you said, it would have been a penalty. And who knows how the rest of the game played out or would have played out. I thought Auburn had a pretty good effort, particularly defensively. Offensively, when Jackson Arnold made throws, they were good, but he got sacked a ton. We'll talk on more of that in just a bit. But here's what some of the fans on Twitter said. Brooks Austin said, "Look, I don't allow ref blaming, but Auburn has been hosed on several massive calls today." Aaron Torres, "I know every team thinks they get screwed by the refs when things don't go their way, but trust me when I say Auburn is getting screwed by the refs." Jimmy Chestnut said, "Oklahoma game today should be investigated. The refs at this game investigated and suspended. A 21-point swing due to referee error should never be allowed." Now, the other instances in this game, you had Auburn lose a scoop and score touchdown after it was ruled Oklahoma receiver Isaiah Satania failed to complete a catch. On-field officials ruled it a catch and a fumble for Satania, but that decision was overturned by the replay booth. And then later in the game, replay officials overturned what was originally called a drop pass from Satania in the red zone into a long reception. Satania appeared to have control of the ball, but it was knocked from his grasp by an Auburn DB as he was tackled out of bounds. That completion, as it was ultimately ruled, set up what proved to be the game-winning touchdown for Oklahoma in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. So like I said, a tough loss for Auburn. All things considered, as much that went wrong and against Auburn on Saturday, I think you got to be encouraged by the effort. This is one, as I was talking to folks last week, I thought Oklahoma was going to win big. Auburn defense played very well. DJ Durkin has a lot to be proud of with his unit. Completely shut down the Oklahoma run game, took that away. And despite all the sacks, when Jackson Arnold, like we said, connected with his receivers, good things happen. Cam Coleman is an absolute beast. Eric Singleton had a nice day. Malcolm Simmons had some catches. Auburn 3-1 now, but I wouldn't give up on them just yet. On the other side, look, Oklahoma did enough, and John Mateer was good. I don't want to come across as I'm not saying he's not good, but I was just a little bit like, we had Tim Tebow on last week, Sam Acho. I think it was more just the hype machine was building about John Mateer, Heisman Trophy candidate. Look how much better he's made Oklahoma and all this. And he has, and he was good. I'm just saying, like, I'd like to see, man, if Oklahoma could take another step forward with the offense, especially in SEC play, right? I mean, this is where you're going to see much tougher defenses, but maybe they could be that much more dangerous if the offense can take that, go into that next gear in SEC play. And again, you're going to have to learn to run the football better in SEC play as well. But all things considered, the loser of the weekend, I'd say, was Auburn fans and the SEC officiating office. They got to do a better job and know the rules and apply the rules a little bit better, especially when it's something like that. All right, other losers of the weekend. How about the Florida offensive line? Look, things got worse for the Gators as they fell at Miami 26-7. The Gators are now 1-3 on the season, and former five-star quarterback DJ Lagway was just 12 of 23 for just 61 passing yards. Florida rushed for just 80 yards, less than 3 yards a carry, 141 yards of total offense. The Gators are off to their worst start since 1986, and that loss sent Billy Napier's record with the Gators to 20-22. The Gators were 0 for 13 on third downs, the worst showing by any FBS team since 2022. It was Florida's lowest yardage since managing 119 against Alabama on December 4th, 1999. Look, this offensive line group gave up 4 sacks, and it actually felt like more than that. This is an O-line that was supposed to be very good, led by starting center Jake Slaughter. I heard some people throughout the offseason that said they were very high on this Florida offensive line, thought that would be a strength of the team. And now Billy Napier, like we said, 20-22 as head coach with the Gators, 10-15 in conference. We'll see what he does with more conference games coming. But Florida, or one other note of the Gators, they had 32 yards of offense on their first 6 drives before going 80 yards on the third quarter possession that scored a touchdown. That extended Florida's NCAA record scoring streak, which is now up to 465 games dating back to 1988. So that was in danger in this one. Thankfully, they got a garbage touchdown that put that over the keeps that streak alive. But Florida gets a bye week this week before hosting Texas, and then it's at Texas A&M, and still got games against Georgia, at Ole Miss, versus Tennessee, versus Florida State. It is brutal. As Paul Feinbaum said on his show on Sunday, he said the end is very near for Billy Napier. However, Scott Strickland decides to do it, and in what matter, I really don't know, and quite frankly, I don't really care. Billy Napier's not coming back as Florida's head coach. So we're on Napier watch. When will he? Look, we were on Napier watch last year, and he saved his job, but that's going to be very difficult to do this year. All right, another loser of the weekend, South Carolina's title hopes. Shane Beamer's Gamecocks dropped to 0-2 in the SEC over the weekend, 2-2 on the season, and after a 29-20 loss at Mizzou on Saturday night. The Gamecocks had no run game to speak of, 22 rush attempts for a net of -9 rushing yards. And Lenore Sellers, bouncing back from what appeared to be a concussion last week against Vandy, hit on some big chunk plays throughout this game, but they kind of struggled to find that consistency and end drives with points. And Carolina's defense really have struggled as of late. Mizzou put up over 450 yards of offense on the Gamecocks, who had just 1 sack. Dylan Stewart, I believe, doesn't have a sack in either SEC game they've played the last 2 weeks. And now, barring a miracle where South Carolina can run the table, I think we could dismiss Lord Norris Sellers as a Heisman candidate, dismiss South Carolina as a playoff contender. It's just going to be very difficult. And by the way, offense coordinator Mike Shula taking some heat as well. He was promoted to the position last December. Things have not went well for him. Gamecocks were up at the half, but only managed to score 6 points after the break. And South Carolina fans voicing their displeasure on social media, saying, why is he trying to make Sellers a pocket passer only? Shula should not make it past halftime, and it's time for Mike Shula to go. We need to make a change. So that was that. All right, lastly, our loser of the weekend. I've got Sam Pittman here. Arkansas lost to Memphis 32-31 as the Hogs fall to 2-2 on the season. Arkansas coming off a 41-35 loss at Ole Miss, led the bulk of this game against Memphis until they overtook them late in the fourth. Arkansas's closing effort was thwarted when their running back Mike Washington fumbled deep in Memphis territory. The fumble was recovered by Memphis with 1:22 remaining, and Memphis would go on to win. Arkansas was held to only a field goal at 220 yards of offense in the second half. Their defense gave up almost 500 yards of offense to Memphis. Arkansas next hosts Notre Dame this coming Saturday, and then a road trip at Tennessee, a home game against A&M. They still got road trips to LSU and Texas, a finale against Mizzou. Sam Pittman very well can join Billy Napier on that list of coaches who don't survive the season. I've seen a lot of people guessing who could be that next coach at Arkansas, everybody from USF coach Alex Golish to Jeff Traylor at UTSA, Tulane coach John Summerall. Memphis coach Ryan Silverfield could be on there. So there's we'll wait to see what happens, but feel bad for our buddy John Neighbors over at Locked On Razorbacks. Tough loss for Arkansas. And another loser of the weekend. How about Alabama and Georgia not getting College Game Day? College Game Day announcing they're going to go to the Big Ten territory for Penn State, Oregon, going to Happy Valley. I say this all the time. Next time they win a big game up at Penn State, it'll be the first time. But nonetheless, it will be SEC Nation heading to Georgia for the Alabama-Georgia game this weekend. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll get to our winners of the weekend. Flipped it around on you guys this week. Hey, but first, when you guys are thinking putting on a cap or getting a hat to go to game day, make sure you are grabbing one from the gamecaps.com. If you go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, or you look back at some of those old pictures, what hat are you wearing? It granted is going to look a lot like these ones behind me if you're watching on video, and they are being made by The Game. They're not just hats. They're the same vintage styles that we all wore back in the 80s and 90s, and they still go for the same price they did back then. When you use our code Locked On, you will get your vintage hat for $16.99. All you got to do is head to thegamecaps.com. They got the majority of the SEC teams available on there. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and make sure you use our code Locked On for an exclusive discount. I can attest to it because I actually ordered a couple more. I've got several of them behind me here if you're watching on camera. But yeah, go grab them. Again, thegamecaps.com because legends wear the game. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out. We got some more guests joining us throughout this week. All right, let's get back into it. Let's get to our winners of the weekend, and we head out to Oklahoma for our first winner of the weekend, as their defense is a winner of the weekend. Sooners tying a school record with 9 sacks in the game. The triumphant return of Jackson Arnold, the former Oklahoma quarterback, now at Auburn. He got put down on his back many times, 9 times. And R. Mason Thomas, he came off the bench and impacted the game in the second half. His sack late tied the school record for team sacks in a game, while Oklahoma went on to beat Auburn 24-17. Brent Venables saying, no doubt about it, love the way we played defensively. Of course, last year, Oklahoma's defense ranked number 19 in total defense. Currently, they're ranked number 3 so far. Brent Venables, one of the best we faced, said Hugh Freeze after the game. He has done an incredible job. The Oklahoma defense held Jackson Arnold, who played for the Sooners, to just 220 passing yards and 1 touchdown, and kept the Tigers to 67 rushing yards and Arnold to negative rushing yards on the ground. So really good job by Oklahoma's defense, Studley, as they've been for much of this season. Another winner of the weekend. How about Ahmad Hardy? Former ULM running back, has been outstanding for Mizzou so far. He has rushed for over 100 yards every single week this season. And this week he rushed for 138 yards and a touchdown in Mizzou's home win over South Carolina, 29-20. He now has 600 rushing yards on the season, but that is second most in the country behind Robert Henry at UTSA. And look, whether it's Roberts, Prabula, I mean, they're getting it done on the ground. They've always run the ball well with Eli Drinkwitz ever since he has been at Mizzou. And by the way, Mizzou's offense currently ranks 5th in the country at 554 yards per game. They are just ahead of Tennessee. So Ahmad Hardy, look, I talked about him all offseason, so I was excited to see what he was going to do for Mizzou, and he is the SEC leading rusher 4 weeks into the season. I'm going to put a caveat in here. This is our winners of the weekend segment, but Eli Drinkwitz telling us we need to put a loser of the weekend in here, and that is the Mizzou secondary. He said after the game, when we watch the tape tomorrow, I'm going to be on some secondary coaches' rear ends. This is getting ridiculous. How porous our pass defense is. That's got to get shored up in a hurry. And whatever we got to do to fix it, we're going to have to do. So Mizzou needing to fix that defense. Too many chunk plays from South Carolina. By the way, Mizzou O-lineman Caden Green spotted in a walking boot prior to Saturday's game. Did not play, so that's something we'll need to monitor moving forward. Another winner of the weekend. How about Trinidad Chambliss filling in again for Austin Simmons at quarterback? Chambliss threw for 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 112 on the ground, as Ole Miss wiped the floor with Tulane 45-10 in Oxford on Saturday. The Rebels improved to 4-0 on the year, and now a massive game against LSU looms this weekend in Oxford. You got to think that even if Austin Simmons gets healthy, the Rebels may stick with the Ferris State transfer at Chambliss, who has been outstanding running this offense the last 2 weeks. And a rare situation where quarterback controversy could actually be a good thing for Lane Kiffin. Like you said, Chambliss started at his college football career at the Division II level, but to go from that to a starter on an SEC team that could make the playoff, an incredible accomplishment. Chambliss said after the game, it has been surreal. Like I said last week, just a dream come true. Another winner of the weekend, how about Vanderbilt? After losing a heartbreaker last season on the road at Georgia State, Vandy avenging that loss, crushing Georgia State 70-21 on Saturday night. The Commodores put up 636 total yards of offense. Vandy 70 points, the most points they have scored in a game in 107 years. The previous time the Commodores rolled up 70 points in a game, you got to go back to 1918 playing Tennessee at Dudley Field in Nashville. So it's been a while. Clark Lee said after the game, I got a ton of respect for Georgia State, but we did not forget that game from a year ago and how painful it was. Tonight was our night. The Commodores have not lost to a non-conference opponent in Nashville since 2022. They're riding a 7-game win streak against non-SEC foes at home. Vanderbilt will face a decent non-conference challenge coming up next in Utah State. They should beat them, though, and they should roll into Bama for their next road trip at 5-0 entering Bryant-Denny, but they got to take care of Utah State first. Another winner of the weekend, I'm going with LSU's passing game. Welcome to the season, Garrett Nussmeier. It was Southeastern, I get it, but they beat them 56-10, and Nussmeier threw for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns, took a seat for much of the second half. And it was just that explosive offense we've been looking for out of LSU. Came into the season very heralded touchdown passes to Bauer Sharp, Barian Brown, Xavier Thomas. LSU gets perhaps their biggest test of the season. I say that knowing they opened on the road at Clemson week 1, but this one coming up, a tough Ole Miss team on the road this weekend. By the way, also running back Caden Durham banged up with an ankle injury. We'll see if he can go this week for LSU. Another winner of the weekend, Arch Manning. Look, we can start with the disclaimer. Yes, this was Sam Houston, but after not looking stellar against UTSA and other games, Arch Manning looked great this week. Went 18 of 21 for 309 yards, 3 touchdown passes, 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So a 5-touchdown day. Arch saying after the game, it felt good. I wish you could have done that the last 3 weeks, but I'm glad we did it tonight. Got the ball in my guys' hands and let them go to work. Manning needed that confidence booster after the poor start to the season. Threw crisp passes, looked more decisive. That's what you're looking for. Michael Taft saying after the game he got his swagger back. Steve Sarkisian saying after the game, yeah, I had everybody and their brother calling to tell me how to fix Arch. We're pretty good at getting quarterbacks to play good. I'd like to give it one more shot before I hand it over to someone else. So Arch Manning doing his thing. And by the way, defensively, the Texas defense continued to suffocate the opposition. Sam Houston with just 113 yards of offense at 2.2 yards per play. The Bearcats rushing attack produced just 27 yards on 26 attempts. Next up, Texas got a bye before they open SEC play at Florida. Just a couple more winners of the weekend. I'm going to put Tennessee's offense in here. The Vols beat up on UAB 56-24. They put up 500 yards of offense of the Blazers. Not surprising, but at 3-1, they missed a field goal, or they were missed field goal late against Georgia away from being undefeated. I just want to highlight their total offense. Currently 6th in all of college football. Josh Heupel continues to roll out a stud, balanced offense. Let's see what they can do on the road this week with some cowbells in their ears. But it marked the 40th win of Josh Heupel's career at Tennessee. And for the first time in program history, Tennessee's offense has scored at least 40 points across the first 4 games of the season. So that is pretty darn impressive. Let's see if they can keep that rolling. And lastly, our last winner of the weekend, Jeff Lebby. Mississippi State, they beat Northern Illinois 38-10, but for the Bulldogs to improve to 4-0 to start the season, Jeff Lebby already surpassed last season's win total, which was 2. And, look, some over-under sports books, depending on where you got it, had them at 3.5 or 4.5 wins. I don't know how good the Bulldogs are going to be this season, but they just need 2 more wins the rest of the season to get to bowl eligibility. Road games against Arkansas and Florida maybe don't look as daunting anymore. They'll host Tennessee this weekend. Let's see how they do in that one. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, well, first, guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, if you've never signed up with them before, you bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love everything that FanDuel has, the live action, player props, same-game parlay, plenty of different stuff. It is quick, easy, and the best way for you to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. Of course, we had a loaded slate yesterday all throughout the NFL, and FanDuel, they had some great action all throughout the day. If you are ready to play, if you've been thinking about it, go download the FanDuel app, visit FanDuel.com today to get started, get signed up. That is FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, like we said, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Hey, this episode also brought to you by our friends at Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Look, there are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, that coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. There are places that just bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. There's a local spot in our neighborhood. Every weekend, college football and the NFL, you're going to be watching it over there. Look, there are some great spots all in your neighborhood, and Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Before we get out of here, we got to jump into a little bit of the poll action and some of the changes from over the weekend. We'll start with the coaches poll. They have Ohio State 1, Penn State 2, Georgia 3, LSU 4, Oregon 5. So that's your top 5. Georgia, and by the way, no change there in the coaches poll. Miami was 6, Texas 7, Florida State 8, Texas A&M 9, Oklahoma 10. So you got 6. 5 of the top 10 are from the SEC. Ole Miss coming in at number 11 gives you 6 of the top 5. 6 of the top 11. I promise I'm decent at math. The rest of the top 25, it's Tennessee coming in at number 15, Alabama at number 16, Mizzou at 19, Vanderbilt at 20. So most notable in both polls, Auburn drops out. Let's take a look at the AP poll. Some more moving and shaking here from the AP. They got Ohio State 1. They moved Miami up all the way to number 2. They were really impressed with Miami's thwarting of a 1-2 Florida team. Like, my God, Miami, did you see what they did to Florida? Anyway, Miami at 2, Penn State 3, LSU 4, Georgia 5, Oregon 6, Oklahoma 7. So Oklahoma getting a big boost in the arm in the AP poll for their win over Auburn. Florida State at 8, Texas A&M at 9, Texas at 10. What's funny about this, it's just weird. They jumped. Texas A&M jumped Texas here. Like, again, Texas played Sam Houston, beat the hell out of them. A&M was on a bye. Yes, they had an impressive win over Notre Dame last week, but you drop Texas and move Notre Dame up? Like, that's just okay, I guess. They say they do this thing week to week, but I'm like, are we reacting to what we saw this week? Anyway, Ole Miss comes in at number 13, Tennessee at number 15, Alabama 17, Vanderbilt 18, Missouri at 20. So Missouri getting some love for their win over South Carolina. South Carolina was ranked one of these polls last week, so they dropped out. But in the AP poll, that is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams ranked in the AP poll, and all of them ranked in the top 20. So there you go. Just shows a little bit more of the SEC dominance and what's happening there. But just kind of looking ahead, I mean, like this weekend, you're going to have, if we're going by the AP rankings, number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss, of course, number 17 Alabama at number 5 Georgia. So you can just kind of see how some of these rankings are going to shake up next week, because somebody's going to lose, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to move up, somebody's going to move down. So anyway, just fun to take a look at those polls on a Monday. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We've got a loaded week of action to talk about. Like we said, a monster week here in week 5 across the conference, some big games. So we'll be dissecting it all week. Make sure you're subscribed and checking us out here on Locked On SEC. And hey, just a reminder, it's another big moment of Locked On for college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff with Gary Patterson, Jesse Holley, and Drake Toll. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.